The Acolyte episode 5 is here, and what the was that? It's official, Qimir is the Sith Lord. And although that question has been answered, this episode brings up far more questions than it does answers. And oh yeah, Jecki died and Yord got his neck snapped. What is going on? This episode was absolutely incredible, but we gotta break it down because there was a lot going on in just 35 minutes. Episode 5, titled Night, opens where episode 4 ended, in the forest on Kofar. But let's recap how episode 4 ended. Kelnacca is dead, and this mysterious masked Sith Lord, who we now know is Qimir, floats down from a tree behind Osha, ignites his lightsaber, flicks Osha to the side, and force pushes 8 Jedi like it's nothing. And that brings us to the beginning of episode 5, where we see Osha waking up after laying on the ground. And some fans have noticed that a lot of this show is just Osha waking up. She must be severely concussed by now after hitting her head so many times. But it starts with Osha waking up and she's looking for Pip. She's not concerned about Sol or Jecki or anybody else. Pip is her top priority. But as she comes to, we begin to hear lightsaber fighting in the distance, and Osha begins to run towards it. She trips and falls and comes face to face with a dead Jedi. This is one of the 5 Jedi that Yord, Jecki, and Sol brought with them on this mission, and let's be honest, those 5 Jedi were really just here to be cannon fodder, and that is what they were. Osha gets up and looks over to see lightsaber fighting in the distance, and we get the start of an over 20-minute lightsaber fight in this episode. We've seen some incredible lightsaber duels in the history of Star Wars, from the Duel of the Fates in The Phantom Menace, to Revenge of the Sith, Anakin vs. Obi-Wan, to even Luke Skywalker versus Vader in Empire Strikes Back, to even animated lightsaber duels. Obi-Wan vs. Maul on Tatooine in Rebels, Ahsoka vs. Maul in the Clone Wars Season 7, and I must say, this 5th episode, the lightsaber duels are on that same level. It's definitely not my personal favorite, but I could see why it would be some fans. The choreography looks like it's straight out of the prequel trilogy. We see Qimir fighting against these other 4 Jedi that are random Jedi, and Yord. He's fighting off 5 Jedi at the same time and killing many of them. And then we see him disable 2 Jedi's lightsabers. How did he do that? Well, Qimir's armor, his helmet, and his sort of wristband thing are both made of a metal in Star Wars called cortosis. Now, although that sounds like something you wouldn't want to get diagnosed with, cortosis in Star Wars is an armor. It was in the Darth Plagueis novel, and it was in the Knights of the Old Republic. But in those specific projects, cortosis, which is an ore, is only woven into the armor, which takes away its abilities. Those abilities are what we're seeing here. Cortosis has the ability to temporarily shut down a lightsaber. And of course, it's like Beskar, it is resistant to lightsabers as well. So that's why all of these lightsabers become temporarily disabled. Honestly, one of the coolest parts of this episode that I feel like nobody's going to be talking about. To bring in a ore like cortosis into canon in this show, and to have this badass Sith Lord that you just introduced have that on his head, so damn cool. It's like introducing Beskar all over again. But those 2 Jedi get saved by Yord as their lightsabers are malfunctioning, and Yord gets a lightsaber graze to his leg, which leaves him injured for the rest of the episode. And as Yord falls to the ground, Qimir takes out the other 3 random Jedi, slicing one down and then stabbing the other 2 like a chicken kebab. And then to finish it all off, he chops off their heads. Now this they hide behind a tree, but later on we know that Yord's head gets snapped and that's on screen. But we'll get to that. We then see as Qimir walks over to go kill Yord, Osha holds up her stun gun and shoots it at Qimir's head. And yes, the armor also blocks that. As he looks over at Osha and begins to walk towards her, Yord screams, "Osha, run!" and she turns and runs the other way. We then cut to May, who's been inside Kelnacca's hut this entire time, watching this all play out. We see her look over at Kelnacca's lightsaber, and then we cut back to Osha, who's now running through the forest. And as she's running, Qimir throws his red lightsaber after her. And this is something we rarely see in Star Wars. We've seen Darth Vader do it a few times and some other characters here and there, but this episode immediately establishes that Qimir is a badass, and he's extremely powerful, and watch him throw this lightsaber. Osha gets saved by Master Sol, who smacks the lightsaber back at him. As Yord comes by, Sol tells him to take the civilian to the ship. And this scene becomes extremely important. The dialogue between Sol and Qimir makes us think that they know each other, and not just because they met in episode 2. They've had a long history together. The first thing that Qimir says to him is, "Master Sol, you don't remember me?" And Sol responds with, "I sense something familiar." as they begin to fight. Now, interestingly enough, the next thing that Soul says is you carry a Jedi's weapon. Now, yes, the lightsaber is a Jedi's weapon, but this is clearly a red lightsaber, which is most known for Sith Lords. And you might ask, why does Soul not know that this character is most likely a Sith? Well, that's because the Sith have been gone for 900 years up until this point of the Acolyte show. And why would they assume that the Sith have returned when the Sith are pretty much just an old wise tale that the Jedi tell the younglings? Because at this point, 900 years before, not even Master Yoda was alive at that time. So Soul would have no idea what a Sith looks like. And his next line is, "But you are no Jedi," which has become a fan favorite line in Star Wars, as Ahsoka Tano has sort of coined the phrase, "I am no Jedi." And she technically is not a Sith Lord, as far as we know. But we then cut to our other battle between May and Jecki by Kelnaka's house. And I cannot emphasize this enough, the choreography in this show is unbelievable. It's on the level of the prequel trilogy while also having the same amount of lightsabers and Jedi as the prequel trilogy. But Jecki tries to arrest May by putting her in handcuffs, saying that she's under arrest for the murder of Master Indara, Master Torben, and her entire family on Brendok. And as you can imagine, May's not very happy about that. We then hear Soul ask Qimir to take his helmet off, to which he responds with, "So that you can read my thoughts?" No, no, no. What the hell is Qimir hiding? He clearly knows a lot about the Jedi, about Soul, about everything, and we just don't know how. And Soul says, what kind of master hides his face from his pupil? To which Qimir responds with, "You tell me." Qimir knows that Master Soul is hiding stuff from Osha and the Jedi, because Soul knows what happened all those years ago on Brendok. And if we're using our context clues, it's probably likely that the Jedi are the ones who killed the witches. For one reason or another, maybe the witches became too big of a threat, the Jedi killed them. And Soul has been keeping that a secret from Osha and the Jedi for 16 years. So Qimir is saying that he's the one who's hiding his true face. We then cut to Yord and Osha running through the forest as they hear Jecki scream. May says we have to go back and help her, to which Yord responds with, "She's a trained Jedi. She can handle herself." Clearly, Yord must have missed when all the other trained Jedi just got absolutely destroyed by Qimir. But we cut back to Qimir versus Soul as Qimir kicks Soul to the ground and disappears. We then see Osha ask Yord who is under that mask. And Yord's response is, "I don't know. He doesn't follow the rules of combat. There is no method to his attacks. It just doesn't make sense. He gets into your head and he stays there." Qimir, if you haven't noticed, is extremely powerful, not only in the ways of the Force, but also in the ways of lightsaber combat, and he can get into your head, to which Osha responds with, "My mother could do that. Get into Jedi's heads." There is some sort of connection here between Qimir and the witches on Brendok. I don't know what it could be because all those witches die, but somehow, some way, Qimir is related to the events that happened 16 years ago on Brendok. We cut back to Jecki and May fighting, as May has a knife up to Jecki's throat. Jecki reverses it and finally puts May fully in the handcuffs. As she forces Kelnaka's lightsaber to her hand, Qimir comes running out of the forest. We get this amazing fight sequence between Qimir and Jecki as she's using two lightsabers, hers and Kelnaka's. It's very reminiscent of Anakin in Attack of the Clones versus Count Dooku, when after Obi-Wan has been pushed to the side, he picks up Obi-Wan's lightsaber and uses both against Dooku. It also just reminds me of Ahsoka Tano, who's most known for having two lightsabers. But as they fight, May runs off into the forest, and Qimir cuts Kelnaka's lightsaber in half. And as Jecki's looking down at the cut-in-half lightsaber, he runs off into the forest, chasing after May. We then go back to Yord and Osha, who have come upon the trees with the insects on them from the last episode. And if you remember, these insects are attracted to light. So Osha tells Yord to turn off his lightsaber, and they keep moving. We then see Qimir catch up to May, and May says, "Forgive me, Master, I was weak." To which Qimir responds with, "You've always been weak," as he cuts her handcuffs off. And right before he's about to kill May, Jecki and Soul arrive. And then we really get Master and Apprentice versus Sith Lord, almost the duel of the fates from The Phantom Menace. Master Qui-Gon, Apprentice Obi-Wan versus this new Sith Lord, Darth Maul. And even this fight sequence is just as good as the last. And it has the added bonus of Qimir trying to kill May the entire time, and Jecki and Soul keeping her alive. As we zoom in on May's scared face, it cuts to Osha as she hears a little girl version of May call out to her. Osha says to Yord, "We have to go back. He's going to kill all of them." As she looks up into the sky, turns on her flashlight to see all the bugs flying ahead, as she says, "Follow me," as they're going to lure all these giant flying insects to the fight. We cut back to Jecki and Soul versus Qimir, as Jecki actually breaks his mask off of his head. And we see Qimir turn his lightsaber into two, by quite simply taking them apart. And Jecki gets stabbed in the chest 3 times. I did not see that coming. I must be honest, I thought all 5 of the random Jedi were going to die in this episode, but Yord and Jecki's body hits the floor as it's revealed to Sol that Qimir is the one under the mask. And I guess revealed to the audience too. And he looks badass. As we saw Qimir in episode 2 and episode 4, he was this goofball, this weird character that was kind of just there. And now he's this badass Sith Lord. Huge shout out to Manny Jacinto for an incredible performance. Sol looks at the ground and says Jecki, to which Qimir responds with, "Was that its name?" Damn. Sol says she was just a child, and Qimir shrugs it off and says, "You're the one who brought her here." As Qimir looks over at May, and he completely changes his attitude back into the Qimir we remember in the last 2 episodes. Creepy as hell, but amazing acting nonetheless. He throws the robes that he's wearing onto Sol's head as he forces May into a chokehold. He then puts his lightsaber up to May's head, so Sol has to stand down. Sol asks, "What are you?" To which Qimir responds with, "I have no name." It's a little hard to call him no name, so we're going to continue to call him Qimir for now. But then he goes on to say, "But the Jedi like you might call me Sith," confirming that he is a Sith Lord. Now, a lot of questions come from this. Is he the apprentice to Plagueis or Tenebris? Or is he just working alone? Was he once a Jedi turned Sith? Who's the one who trained him? Why is he so keen on killing Master Sol and the others? A lot of questions that need to be answered. Sol's response to Qimir is, "Why risk discovery?" To which Qimir responds with, "I did wear a mask, but he plans on killing everybody here so that there's no witnesses." Sol asks what he wants, to which he responds with, "Freedom. The freedom to wield my power the way I like." Sound familiar? This was the same message that the witches had in episode 3. They were hiding on Brendok because the Jedi were hunting them down. They were persecuting them because of the power they had. They just want the freedom to be able to wield their power. And Qimir says he wants a pupil. He wants an acolyte. But May went back on their deal, and now he has to kill every last one of them. And then he says, "I don't make the rules. The Jedi do." And the Jedi say that the Sith can't exist. Then Sol looks down at May, and Qimir says, "Oh, look at you two. Right back where you started," which is referring to Brendok 16 years ago. Again, Qimir knows so much more information than he should, and we don't know why. But just then, Yord comes in, forces Chimir's broken helmet off the ground because he realizes that the helmet is the thing that shorted the lightsabers. Genius. Attacks Qimir, both lightsabers get disabled. Yord recognizes that that's Qimir from episode 2, and Qimir snaps his neck. Now, we've seen some pretty gruesome scenes in Star Wars, but usually they cut away. Like earlier in this episode, when they chopped off the 2 Jedi's heads, they put it behind a tree. But this they showed. Star Wars is just for kids. Am I right? This was insane. Like I said earlier, I did not expect Jecki or Yord to die in this episode. That's what's really cool about this Acolyte show. The possibilities are endless. Nobody is safe, and anybody could die at any moment. And this episode was the perfect example of that. Not only did the 5 rando Jedis die, Kelnaka died, Jecki died, and Yord die, leaving only Master Sol. That's insane. While all this commotion is happening, May runs for it, and Osha stuns her. As we see Sol attack Qimir in all this rage and anger, the dark side is seeping in, and Qimir notices as he gives him a smile. Sol absolutely beats up on him, not holding back any punches, and as he puts a lightsaber up to his head, he's about to kill him, and Osha stops him. As Qimir laughs and looks over at Osha and says, "Osha, is this your master? You trust him after everything he did to you?" To which Sol says, "His mind is twisted by darkness." And Qimir responds with, "I accept my darkness. What do you do with yours?" Again, Sol is not telling the full truth to Osha or anybody. As the flying insects come in, and Osha has a plan. As she rips Pip's head off, turns on the flashlight, and sticks it on Chimir's back. All the insects come down because they're attracted to the light, pick up Qimir, and take him away. Obviously, he's not dead. As he goes away, Osha says, "Why did he say I shouldn't trust you? What did you do?" To which Sol responds with, "Please, Osha, I'll explain." And then he's stunned by May, leaving no time for Sol to explain and leaving Osha thinking, what could he possibly be hiding from me? As the sun rises on Kofar, we get this scene between Osha and May, their first conversation in 16 years together. Now, I'm not saying by any means that this scene is nearly as good as Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar, but it is very similar in the dialogue aspects. As Osha says, "What have you done?" As May says, "I did everything for you, for our family." To which Osha responds with, "You did everything for yourself. All the lives that are lost tonight are all because of you." And she responds with, "The Jedi got what they deserved." We saw the flashbacks in episode 3 from Osha's perspective. She thinks that May's the one who started the fire, and that fire killed her whole family. However, from May's perspective, there's a different story. And it could be that she knows the Jedi were the ones who killed their family. May says, "Have you forgotten where we come from? The Jedi invaded our home." To which Osha responds with, "Invaded? No, May, you're the violent one." To which May says, "They turned you against me." Very similar to what Anakin says to Obi-Wan on Mustafar. "You turned her against me!" But May says, "It's okay though, because now we can be together." She says, "I love you. Please don't choose them again. Please choose me." And after Osha thinks about it for a second, she's like, "Yeah, no." She says, "You're a criminal, May. You have to pay for your crimes." May says, "Don't do this." To which Osha responds with, "You've done this yourself." Again, Mustafar. "You have done that yourself." Osha says, "You followed a false master." To which May responds with, "So did you." I think there's a lot of information about Sol that's going to be revealed in the next episode, or maybe the one after that might make us think differently about our good friend Sol. As May force pushes Osha and knocks her out. And as she walks up on her unconscious body, she says, "You were never good at blocking." A callback to episode 3, where May is the one who has to block Mother Anisea, and Osha just hides behind her. May then forces Yord's lightsaber into her hand and chops off her hair, taking Osha's clothes and taking her place. I really don't know what May's plan is here. If she wants to kill Sol, I don't know why she didn't just do it while he was unconscious. They're probably on their way to Coruscant right now, and I don't know what she's planning on doing. We then cut to Pip's head falling in the forest as we see Qimir coming down from the sky. He has chopped all of those insects up, and now he's walking away. And as he does, Basil comes into the frame, picking up Pip. It seems like Basil's going to be the one who finds out that Osha is really May. We cut the Sol waking up as May comes upon him, dressed as Osha. He says, "Where is she?" "May." To which May, as Osha responds with, "She's gone. We gotta get to the ship." And as Sol looks around at his dead Padawan and dead Master Yord, he says, "Let's go." And as they get on the ship, we see Basil behind them, sniffing with Pip in his hand. However, the episode ends with Qimir. He goes and he picks up his broken mask and goes over to Osha's unconscious body. As he says, "What extraordinary beings we are." What? We? What is he talking about? Then he goes to flip over Osha. And some fans actually thought he was force healing her here. He's not. The wound remains the same. He's just flipping her over. And while he does so, it sounds like we hear Kylo Ren's theme. Now, maybe this is just our ears tricking us, but it sounds exactly like Kylo Ren's theme. And I don't know if this is on purpose or not, because how does Kylo Ren have anything to do with any of this? He's not alive for at least another 100 years. But that's it. The episode ends just like that. This is an incredible episode. I rank it at a 9.5 out of 10. The lightsaber sequences were amazing. The reveal of Qimir being the Sith Lord, even though we kind of saw it coming, was still crazy because there's more questions than answers about this character now. And there's a lot of mystery about what really happened on Brendok 16 years ago. But tell me what you think in the comment section below. What do you rank this episode out of 10? And there's a lot more flashbacks about what happened on Brendok on the way, as we can see in the trailers specific scenes of Kelnaka fighting against Sol and Torben. But I break down all of that in this video right here.